Plant nursery in Boynton Beach, and we specialize in plants for all types of landscapes. And some of the landscapes that I do are butterfly installations, where I put in plants that are host plants for butterflies and nectar plants for butterflies. And between those two different types of plants, they can bring in butterflies year-round to a yard or any kind of a landscape that we're doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my slideshow and show you some of the butterflies that can be attracted to any yard here in South Florida. And the pictures that you're going to see on here are butterflies that were actually in one yard. All these pictures were taken just in one yard in Delray Beach. So any of the butterflies you see here can be attracted to a yard in South Florida, just if you place the right types of plants there. I didn't bring my cards with me, but we do have a booth out there that if you're interested in learning more, you can come pick up one of my cards and check out our website. Anyway, that's what we're talking about here. I'm going to stand right here and just kind of flip through here because I don't have a remote. I'm sorry. This is a two-dog production. These are my dogs. They're my seed spreaders, spread seed around the yards. This is Sarah right here on the left, and that's Sebastian on the right. The first one is the sulfur butterfly. You've probably seen the yellow ones flying around. This particular one is a cloudless sulfur, and they're usually denoted by a translucent spot on their dorsal fin or dorsal wing right here, and I'll show you a better picture of that. This is on a plant called strongbark. It's a tree that has white flowers and orange berries, so you get something for the birds and something for the butterflies. Checkered white. In the parentheses I put the actual host plant, and what I mean by host plant, that's what the butterfly lands on and lays its eggs. The female butterfly lays its eggs on the plant, and then when the eggs emerge into the larvae, which is the caterpillar, they start eating the plant. But some of these plants aren't really good for the yard because they're kind of weedy and makes your yard look kind of messy. But I'll let you know what the host plant is and what they actually go after. But you can certainly draw these butterflies into your yard just for nectar. On plants. Again, this is, I think this is on the strongbark also. So these guys show up every once in a while. They're not to be confused with the white. I'm sorry. These are not to be confused with the regular whites, which are pure white. These have little black spots going through them. There's a better picture of the cloudless sulfur. You can always see the little translucent spot in the center. These are the ones that are the most easily recognizable of all the yellow butterflies, cloudless sulfur. And the host plants are cassias. And a lot of cassias that you see are those yellow flowered trees that are planted on roadsides, but there are also a couple of native cassias that are in the environment. And that's what they lay their eggs on. And they can nectar on them also. This is a different plant that it's nectaring on. This is a rooty daggerwing. Ficuses, the native ficuses are what they will actually lay their eggs on. And as a matter of fact, if you look outside the window here, that large tree right there, that's one of our native ficuses. There's only two native ficuses. That's known as the wild banyan. And now there's a lot of non-native ficuses, like all these ficuses up and down this road right here are all non-native. That's false wild banyan from, I think, the Philippines, actually. Okay. But that particular one right there is a native ficus, and that butterfly actually hosts on that tree. It'll lay its eggs on the leaves, and the caterpillars emerge. So it's easily recognizable by the tails and the jagged wings. Peacock butterflies, you see these flying mostly up and down the canal banks. They do lay their eggs on a small little flowering bush that flowers down close to the water line. Very colorful butterfly, mostly associated with water, lakes, canals. That's where you'll mostly see them. Swallowtails, we do have a number of swallowtails that pass through the area. Mostly nectaring on flowering plants. Their host plants are anything in the herb family mostly, like parsley, fennel, and dill. There's a native dill that grows. that's usually what they'll lay their eggs on.
What is their lifespan typically as a butterfly?
As a butterfly, most butterflies only live from like 8 to 15 days. They live very short lives. There are some that live a lot longer, like the monarchs and zebra longwings. They're the ones, I'll show you the zebra longwings. Yeah, the state butterfly, exactly. They live a lot longer. The reason why the zebras will live a lot longer is they'll nectar and they also eat pollen. And when they eat the pollen, it actually extends their life. Yeah, and monarchs live long too. They live about 6 months also.
And they actually migrate.
And they migrate. Another black swallowtail. These are little guys. They're only about that big. They're hard to spot because they fly so fast. But when they do land and you see something like that that doesn't look quite like what you've ever seen, that's a pearl crescent. And they nectar a lot on this weed that grows in St. Augustine lawns called frog fruit. This comes up in lawns because the lawns are irrigated all the time, and this plant is associated with water also. So this particular butterfly loves that plant. This is its sister butterfly. That's the pearl crescent. As you can see, it's all pure orange. And then this is the Phaon crescent, where you get that yellow stripe going through there. There's a zebra longwing. Great butterfly. It's a very social butterfly. It's also the kind of butterfly you can keep in your yard year-round. Once it finds its yard and it has its host plant, which is in the Passiflora family, which is a vine, it'll stay there all year round. It'll raise its broods, and they'll just keep living in your yard the whole time. They won't even move on. They'll just stay. And that's a great one to keep in your yard. Yeah. All the longwings. This one, and I'll show you some others that we'll see in your yard all year long. That's the underside of it. A lot of times you don't see that, but they do have red underside when they're hanging. And again, they're very social. They tend to congregate in groups, especially at night. They'll all hang together like bats, up and down stems. It's a very cool butterfly. Gulf fritillary, that's in the same family as the zebra longwing, associated with the same passifloras. This one and the zebra, you can keep in your yard year-round. All the other butterflies are transitory. They'll move in, move out. If they're not brooding at a certain time, you won't see them, and then they'll be back a couple of months. These two guys, this one and the zebra, you can keep in your yard year-round with the right plants.
I have a question about the, so like at night, how if you use a flashlight, try to go find them, would that be?
For these guys, probably not, but the zebra longwings, you probably could. If you get a substantial population in your yard, if you go through at night and look. What I do is I wait for it just before it gets to be dark, and I sit in a chair out in the yard and I watch them fly, because they'll fly up into a bush, and then they'll get up there, and then they'll kind of crawl up onto a stem and hang down. So that's where I know they are. If you go around with a flashlight, you're going to be looking a long time, probably trying to find where they are. Because they try to be safe, because they know predators are after them. So they hang off of very thin branches, and trying to find them at night is kind of tough. But if you sit there before dark and watch where they're flying into, because they'll fly into bushes or large trees where they can hide. This is another type of swallowtail. This one's just emerged from its chrysalis. And when they come out, they hang themselves off of something, and their wings are very wet. And so they hang down and they let the sun hit it so they can get their wings hardened up. It takes them a couple hours and then they fly. This is their most vulnerable part. This is where they usually get, killed by lizards and birds and stuff like that. This is another type of a skipper. This is a long-tailed skipper. This is easily spotted. There's a lot of these around. The tail is a giveaway, and then the iridescent green back. Really this picture doesn't show it justice. This really glows in the sunlight.
And how do moths differentiate from butterflies?
Moths have different antennas. They usually have clubs at the end of their antennas, and their wings are a lot more rough. is a better word, and not as scaly, where they reflect sun, because moths are, they're night flyers, they don't
Right.
need the sun as energy to survive. So their scales are not like iridescent or reflective. And then again, a big giveaway is they got clubs at the end of their antenna
Okay.
So butterfly use sun energy for flight?
from the sun.
Really?
Yeah, all of them do. They make their way into the sun at a certain point, even the zebra longwings, which are shade lovers. But they'll make their way into the sun to get the energy, to absorb that energy from the sun. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Like a solar panel.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
yeah. Just like us, we need sun too. If we were in the shade, if you were inside a building all the time, you would eventually die. We need the sun also. Humans need sun.
Yeah, like the Alaska.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why there's only 1 million people there. Sulfurs, another sulfur. This one you'll see every once in a while. It doesn't really nectar on the flowers. It gets most of its energy from rotting fruit. They stick their proboscis into rotting fruit or manure, cow manure, something like that, any kind of a mineral source. They don't really nectar on flowers. This one's a rare hair streak from this is actually down here in South Florida. These can be they're called hair streaks because they get these 2 little streaks of tails coming off the back. They're very small, they're only about that big. And then a lot of the hair streaks can be identified by the different spots that they have. This one's a blue, doesn't have the hair streaks on it. They call it blue because when the wings are folded, it's all blue on top. It's hard to see them when they're like that. Every time they land, their wings are closed. Monarchs, everybody knows what a monarch is. There's another blue, different type of blue. It has 2 eye spots instead of 1. This is a giant swallowtail. This is our largest butterfly in Florida. It's mostly associated with citrus. It lays its eggs on citrus plants, whether it's native or non-native. There's another ruby daggerwood, peacock. This is a queen butterfly. It's different than the monarch. At first look, you think it's a monarch, but it's not. It doesn't have what I call the church stained glass effect. It has all these white spots on it. Its host plants are the same milkweeds as the monarchs. You'll see them with monarchs, but if you look closely, you can tell the difference. A lot of the black rim, the white spots. That is a Phaon crescent. This is an Atala. These guys almost went extinct in the 50s because their habitat was being destroyed and the plant that they were hosting on was being poached from the wild. It's a plant that it gets about this big. It's an ancient plant. It was around in the dinosaur time. We have a couple over in our booth if you want to take a look at the plant itself. And it's the only plant that they will host on. But the scientists actually saved that. They gathered up a couple of thousand of them from South Dade County, brought them up into the laboratory, raised them up, reintroduced them back into the wild. And then the plant, the Kunti plant, came into cultivation. The nurseries down in Homestead started growing it and selling it, so it was less of an incentive for people to go out into the wild and pick them up. So the populations have increased dramatically, and now you see them every season. Very pretty butterfly, lumbers around like a moth. You might think it's a moth, but it's not. This is the big dead giveaway, the red abdomen. And then these are all very reflective. Really nice, beautiful little butterfly. Another swallowtail without its tails. Lizard got a hold of them. Another ruby daggerwing. This one's very old. It's about to die. See, its scales are all fading. And then I have a number of plants, but I don't think I'm going to have time to go through all of them. These are plants that are native to Florida that the butterflies like. This is our native lantana. purple berries and actually gives white and pinkish flowers, which this plant doesn't have right now. Typical butterfly garden. Goldenrod.
We have a one for Pendle,
Yeah.
so we have this one.
Oh,
But you
good.
have plain.
Good. There's me along here. This shows you what you can do with just a small area. You know, grasses, wildflowers, a few rocks, a few more elevation, saw palmettos and a couple of trees. And this is just a very small area. So you can create a very compact butterfly garden just in a small area. Pathways, if you have a bigger property, you can create like a hammock in your side yard or backyard. Butterflies like to flit in and out in the sunlight. More butterflies, that's a queen butterfly. This is the cassia, which is sulfur, the yellow butterflies like. This is our native one, which is a shrub, it's not a tree. This shows again what you can do with a very small area from here to the street. The street is literally right there. It's about 15 feet, and I just planted all up this way and all up that way, and just planted all butterfly plants and trees. Black-eyed Susans do well this time of year. There's a mass planting of beach verbena, which is a good nectar source for butterflies. These are caterpillars of the Gulf fritillary, the orange butterfly that I showed you. And it's hosting on its native passiflora, which is this with the vine there, and then there's a different plant in there. This is a different plant, and that's the passiflora. More swallowtails mating, and I think that's about it. I raced through that. I can do that in 2 hours.
Oh,
Yeah, and I expand it, and